Hello, hockey fans. My name is David. Thought I would start this message on the afternoon of Sunday, 6th of November, 2:01 North American Eastern Standard Time. That's right. It has been a time change across Canada and the contiguous United States. We all know Alaska, Canada, and the contiguous U.S. all changed their clocks from daylight saving to standard time, with daylight saving time to resume next year in mid-March. We have the second Sunday in March at 2 a.m. local time. The clocks go forward to 3. I'm trying to get used to this. It's going to get dark pretty soon, or at least a bit before 5 local time. Probably going to be dark, or shortly after that. Before I go further, I thought I would do on this week in review for Canadian teams, go through the standings and see where they are. Here's back to playoff positions. Alright, I'm just gonna turn the light on here. You can see there, the Leafs are just out of a playoff spot. In terms of the Atlantic Division, the Wings have 14 points. The Leafs have the same number. Very tough competition there. Towards the bottom, we have the Habs. Still not far off, but with 11 points over 12 games, they're not doing too good either. Standers have lost. Alright, there we go. We have these we're losing streaks. The Leafs have won 2 games in a row. Now I'm going to go to the Western Conference and see how various Canadian teams within that conference are doing. So, Jets are doing pretty good. 15 points over 11 games, second in the Central. They also look at the Oilers, kind of slipping a little bit. 2 straight losses, both in regulation. Jets are on a roll. Wow. What? Oops. Where is it there? There we go here. With the Jets, got a 5-point game point streak going up there. The Oilers, by contrast, have lost 2 straight. Flames have lost 3 straight, but there was a overtime loss. The Canucks lost in a shootout to the Preds, but overall, when it comes to Canadian teams, the Canucks are just going to see, in terms of average points per game, I'm going to just go with the league standings here. Average points per game, the Jets lead all Canadian teams with slightly over 1.36. Number 2 on the list, we have the Oilers. So, a titch above 1.15. The Flames are number 3 at 1.1. Oh, wait. Alright, excuse me. Jets or the Leafs. 3.1. Slightly over 1.16, we have the Leafs. On the mend, the Flames at 1.1 are in third. Okay, we have the Jets. Jets, Leafs, Oilers, or Flames are in 4th. We have the Habs in 5th, with a bit over 0.92, bit over 0.9 points per game. All right. We have the Canucks at 0.75 points per game, second to last, and the Senders at a bit over 0.72 points a game in dead last. So Canucks seem to be doing pretty good. Among Canadian teams, we have, in terms of the Connor Bedard sweepstakes, most likely, and only at this point, most likely the Sens, a team that pundits predicted would make a strong push for a playoff spot. Well, it's not looking too strong now. Certainly, the Sens ended up losing to the Golden Knights, or not Golden Knights, excuse me. Forget. What was that score? Just check for a moment here. Flyers, yeah, Flyers. The Flames lost in overtime to the Devils. Canucks lost in a shootout to the Predators. The Habs were beaten by the Golden Knights 6-4. And the Jets had the most convincing win of all, 4-0 over the Blackhawks. Jets are on a roll. They can keep it up. I mean, I see the Jets in the postseason, maybe the only team to represent Canada. Oilers are in the first wild card spot in the West. But boy, oh boy, did the Oilers end up losing badly. And when I think of, Jack Campbell's not responsible, well, certainly the Oilers would have still lost their home game to the Dallas Stars 4-2 had Campbell stopped those 2 shots that I felt he should have stopped. The third Dallas Stars goal, which kind of bounced off him in the post, and that fourth Stars goal, when he could be like this, deer in the headlights, not knowing what to do, kind of froze, maybe panicked, and before he knew it, puck was behind him, and it was 4-2 Stars, and yeah, it was 4th Stars goal, and that was it. So yeah, it's kind of been an interesting week. Last week, an interesting week for the Alberta teams. Basically, 0 for the week, or almost pretty much. Yeah, yeah. The others lost, 2 games. Lost 2 straight games. The Flames have lost, 4. Going back to the Oilers game, last weekend, which was in regulation a very close game. Then there was then the Seattle Kraken was a close game. Devils was kind of close too. And then the Stars was absolutely embarrassing. And the Stars are among the elite teams so far out of the gate. That's not good. Certainly the Leafs against the Golden Knights during the last full week of October didn't impress me very much, with the Golden Knights having then been one of the elite teams. Question is if the Leafs can snap their 4-game road losing streak when they fly into the interior of North Carolina to play the local Canes squad, with game time expected to be starting a bit after 5 Eastern time, after pre-game ceremonies are taken into account. The problem with the Oilers are certainly they got some issues. I mean, the defense wasn't exactly very good against the Stars, but again, allowing 2 ugly goals, one off the post, comes down to positioning. You gotta stop those. You can't just slow down those pucks. You gotta stop them. Then that 4th goal, frozen. Like, he had stopped the first one, then didn't figure out not to know what to do. Could have corralled the puck. Is it something as corralling the puck, stopping it, freezing it? Do you at least get a whistle? Don't know, but if the Oilers don't turn their game around pretty soon, they could be going down this way in the Pacific. Oh, the Oilers and Flames were expected to challenge for top 3 spots in the Pacific. The Oilers are still close to a top 3 spot, but not in one. The Flames are not even a playoff spot, but are close to one. Of course, this month's going to be important for all Canadian teams. Senators seem to be going backwards to a point where, on average points per game, they are dead last among Canadian teams. Even worse than the Canucks. Thought, the Canucks would be the worst in the NHL. They looked that way. But after having won, 3 of 5, and not really, only one regulation loss in the last 5, much better, but still, Canucks have a long way to go to get up into the standings. And it may be the Canucks do end up in the top 3. Doesn't look too good so far. It's going to be a long road ahead. Yeah. I feared that going into the Leaf game on Saturday against the Bruins, the Leafs would play like the Oilers against the Stars had played. That didn't happen. Instead, the Leafs stepped up. Even in the absence of Ilya Samsonov, who did not return for the third period after having gone down to a knee injury. Well, let's see how serious that knee injury is, because when it's a knee injury and it's a goalie, it's never good. Question will be whether it will be just, a few days, Samsonov will be back. Could be the rest of the month potentially. If he goes on a long-term injured reserve or LTIR. It could be, let me think here. It could be that he's out for much of the rest of the season. It's important to note that during the regular season, a hard salary cap is in place, and teams that are over the cap can only remain so because of LTIR. If enough players are injured and the cap hits are high enough, LTIR frees up cap space for as long as such players are on LTIR. Well, let's see what happens, but again, it'll suck if Samsonov doesn't get to play another game this season. But again, the problem is Matt Murray, who was injury prone, was like a very stupid, was a stupid signing by Dubas, GM of the Leafs, because look at what happened. Murray played one game, Leafs didn't perform great in front of him. They ended up losing regulation, and then Murray went down in practice, and after after having dressed for the second regular season game of his Leafs tenure, wasn't used, whereas Samsonov, who played against his most recent former team, was, and ended up coming up big. In practice on what was supposed to be Murray's debut against his most recent former team, ended up not going to plan. Murray was hurt, went on LTIR, and who knows when he's going to come back. So Leafs have Eric Kallgren, who played the third period of the 2-1 regulation win over the Bruins. Dubas, because of the waiving of Obi Kubel, a winger who had played with the Avs only last season, freed up a contract slot, and signed Kallgren-Petruzzelli under contract to the Marlies, but not the Leafs. Well, let's see what happens, but it's going to be interesting times, particularly if Samsonov is out long term, because if there's a back-to-back, who knows how well Petruzzelli will do at the NHL level. There's also the issue of Kallgren and if he can propel the Leafs to new heights. We'll have to see, because, interesting times as a goalie and in goaltending. And with the defense not exactly very good, it's going to be interesting to see if the lack of NHL quality goaltending means that the Leafs are screwed with the defense not being the best. We'll have to see. Hurricanes will provide an important test, particularly on the road, and with Leafs having so far in the regular season having been 0 for the contiguous United States, we'll have to see what happens. There's no doubt the Leafs have to win games on the road if they're going to have a chance of qualifying for a playoff spot. They've only won one, and if they only win games in Canada, it's not going to be good. Anyway, go Leafs go.